Thank you for coming out for this artist talk. I am super excited. I have been following, this is the artist, and our artist resident, Quinn Briceño. He's going to be here through September 3rd. He has a studio downstairs. His studio hours, he's here a lot, but his studio hours are 1 to 3, Tuesday through Friday. So if you want to meet him, hang out with him, maybe make art with him, yeah, come down and hang out with Quinn. I have been following Quinn's work for quite a few years now. He went to one of my universities, Washington University in St. Louis, and I loved his bold graphic images and bright, brilliant colors and these like patterns. And so I was kind of waiting for him to graduate. As soon as he did, I called him up and said, "Hey, do you want to come hang out in Rockport for a while?" So he's been to Texas before, but never quite this far south. And I think we've given him a very warm welcome. So yeah. Why don't you start by telling us a little about yourself and kind of why you started making the images that you do?
Right, so I'm Nicaraguan American. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and to a mother who's mostly Irish American, and a father who came from Nicaragua after the Sandinista Revolution and the whole Contra affair and earthquakes and everything happening down there. So they met at Mizzou, which is a pretty big thing with our family. I think a lot of people in my family met at Mizzou and everything, but that's how I kind of came to be. So my whole life I've been kind of struggling between these two different identities, being Nicaraguan and American. I've always felt like one was pushing, the other was pulling, and I had to really choose between the two of them, which really isn't fair because I'm both. I have a foot in both doors, really. So it's taken me a while to kind of accept both sides, and really within my work, it's exploring those two sides. So because I don't live in Nicaragua anymore, I lived there for 5 years, very early on in my life. Because I don't live there, I usually explore themes and images of Nicaragua. However, there's collaged imagery and pieces and parts of my American side of it. So a little bit of both worlds. And for me, it's like this combination that creates a space for me to feel accepted and anybody that is similar to me to feel accepted within the work as well.
How long have you been collaging and working in this manner, and how did you start working with collage?
With collage? I started collage work in like 2016. I took a class in San Francisco Art Institute. I didn't think I was going to like collage, but I really did like collage. I think it just like adds a really interesting element to paint. I get very bored easily with certain things, and collage kind of spices things up a little bit for me and keeps things fresh. But it didn't really like work its way fully into the work probably until about 2017, 2018. And I just like started putting things in specific places and thought things were really interesting, and it just kind of kept developing and kept going. So, yeah.
So, in seeing this body of work, there's a few pieces that kind of seem to have pairs, like this one, and then the two pieces, new pieces, the entitled kind of portraits over there. Can you talk a little bit about those pieces and what they kind of mean to each other?
Sure. So, Allá and Allí, those are my thesis pieces that I did at Washington University. The imagery comes from Google Earth images. So, like I said, it was difficult for me to visit Nicaragua very often. We're in St. Louis, it's pretty far, it's expensive, a lot of different factors into it. So for me, a way to visit digitally was through Google Earth. So I could kind of explore the different streets and see things that I remembered. And for me, it just kind of like made sense for this whole culminating experience of my grad school to really kind of create those two pieces. So allá and allí, it's like there and over there. It's like kind of like these small, distinct things when it comes to Spanish. It made sense just like, oh, it's just right there through Google Earth, through these images that I can explore my own heritage, my own life. So that's kind of how those two came together. But if you know Google Earth, things aren't exactly perfect. Things don't line up properly. It's because there's a lot of different images that are digitally collaged, which I thought was a perfect metaphor for my analog method of collage. And that's kind of just like how everything came to be. Within the pieces, you see these collaged parts where I collage completely over the figure, which kind of makes its way into those ones as well. But I like to call them ciphers, which is like a mathematical term, which usually means like zero or not really important. But for me, it's not really necessarily that. It's kind of like a stand-in for something. For me, you can kind of see yourself as that person. You can like get an impression of them, and you can really see anyone within that. So for me, it takes up space, and it's important in that way. So I guess moving on to the other two pieces, it kind of, this whole idea of the cipher really started with Untitled Carlos over here. So just like this need of, this feeling that I need to collage over this person because I felt like I couldn't really paint them and do them justice. So it became more important to start collaging onto the figure, in that way, getting more meaning in that way. So that was before, that goes into these, and then later on I started more of these crazier cipher pictures as well. So we have Cristina and Maria Elena, both of them are very important to me and my family. I started with Cristina first. She's actually was my dad's nanny when he was growing up. So when he came to the United States, he was like 13 or so. She kind of took care of him as like another mother. I actually recently met her last year in New Orleans, and it was like a really nice experience. It was like meeting your abuelita for the first time. So I felt that it was important for me to make a painting of her. And that's, again, I felt like I couldn't really do it justice, so I did the collaging on top of the face. And Maria Elena has been working was working for my abuelitos for a really long time in Nicaragua, and so whenever I visit, she was always there. She always took care of us, and she kind of gave, like she would poke fun at us every once in a while, but it was like in a very loving way. And so she's always been kind of like someone important to me that I can kind of connect to that lifestyle in Nicaragua.
You mentioned ciphers.
Yeah.
How important is mathematics in your work?
You could say it, I mean, not really, but it is. I was just really taking the verbiage of it. So I think you could probably see mathematics, and just like specifically in the patterns and everything. But for me, it's not like a specific formula. I'm not like super hard edge on everything. Nothing is ever like, I'm never married to certain things. So that's the one thing I kind of, yeah.
I know you could influences your music, so I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't.
Not at all.
That's just a word for the music. It's not, it doesn't, yeah, it's different.
Cool. 2 more questions, then we're going to open it up. I kind of want you to talk about the patterns you have in the background.
Right.
Because there's some patterns that repeat in different paintings, like that one over there and the one next to it. And then, can you talk, like, how do you find these patterns?
So first of all, they're Latin American tile patterns. They're everywhere. You can even see them in kitchens and bathrooms here in the United States now. So it was always something that I kind of had my eye drawn to. It's always something really interesting to me. And it's been making its way into my work for a while now, but I get all my tile patterns from a website called Granada Tile, and then there's a couple other ones that I just recently found that I can't remember the names of. But I screenshot them, I put them into Photoshop, and then I change their colors, and I warp them to kind of create a new space that's more welcoming of the environment that they're a part of within the paintings.
Lastly, are there any other paintings that have interesting stories behind them? Like, I know you talked to me about Swims in the Loose. Like, is there any other stories in these paintings that you really want to talk about?
Yeah, should I talk about Se Fue la Luz since
Yeah.
we're recording, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah, so Se Fue la Luz is that one. I made that a few years back, I think it was like 2019. I was visiting in Nicaragua with a few of my friends. We're Eagle Scouts, and it's a very common occurrence for the power to go out. If it just rains at all, the power will go out. So the power went out that night because it was raining, and Argentina was cooking us dinner, and she was cooking it by candlelight, which is pretty difficult when you're creating a dinner for that many people. And my friend actually had a headlamp. Yeah, so he let her borrow it to finish dinner, and we got free dinner out of it. So yeah, it was a good story. Yeah, it's a nice one. Other ones, I guess I could talk about this one. So I talked about visiting Christina for the first time and meeting her, and she gave me photographs of my dad, which I hadn't seen before, of him as a younger person. And that's him when he just like, I think 13-ish, right around when he moved to the United States. So it was really important for me to paint his likeness there. But also I was kind of like dealing with different patterns and everything. So we have these like weird amorphous blobs. Those are actually like camouflage things that I've like taken and kind of changed to go along with the painting. So sometimes some people have said that my patterns are kind of like a camouflage, so it's like double camouflage in a way there. Another one, I guess, Amor Joven. I like that one personally because it's my parents. It was right around the time, a month or two before I was about to get married. So I was thinking about love and how kind of like we are with our partners and everything, and I thought about how I came to be and how my parents met, which is a really funny story, which I won't talk about because maybe if you ask me later, I'll talk about it. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting thing how it was fated to be, and yeah, I just kind of combined the two to create something new because I was doing something very important in my life, and obviously they were doing something important in their lives too.
All right, I'm gonna open it up. Who has questions? Lynn?
The inspiration for half a car.
Right, so that's one of those fun, happy accidents from the Google Earth images, right? So you could, it happened, right? But you could also, if you wanted to project any sort of meaning on that, you could also show like the me being half Nicaraguan, me being half American, if you wanted to. But yeah, that's a happy accident from Google Earth. Yeah.
Any other questions?
As time goes on, are you staying away from Nicaragua for longer blocks of time? Does that bother you? Or?
Yeah, it does bother me. It's not from a lack of trying. It's politically very unstable right now. And there's COVID, and that was pretty bad down there. But the last time I visited, my sister went down after I had left. And my dad got stuck in a city. He couldn't leave the city because of a lot of different protesting going on. They had blockaded a lot of the roads, so he was stuck in a city called San Juan del Sur, which was nice for him because it was he had fresh fish every day, so he was pretty happy about that. But he couldn't leave the city, so it was kind of scary. But yeah, I haven't been able to visit since 2017.
How old are you?
When
You're talking right now.
how old am I now? I'm turning 30 in 2 weeks, or next week. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your technique for putting the collage stuff on top of it?
The technique, so like how I choose it, or like how I actually do it.
Well, you can do both of them. Answer both of those
Right.
questions.
So a lot of the materials that I have, I get from just like everyday life. I work at a framing facility in St. Louis, and they do their own printing. So any images that I get are usually discarded images that are either just like don't work, or they're damaged in some way, which I find really interesting. You know, like one man's trash is another one's treasure. But just also just like using discarded materials is a really big thing in the vein of like art history when it comes to collage. So that's the choosing. The way I put it, I usually have like a kind of like an idea of where I want to put it, but it's not always, I'm not always married to it. But yeah, I'll just kind of have an idea. It's like, this is where I want to do collage. Sometimes I'll use wax paper and kind of just like cut out the area and use like a Sharpie or something, and then glue that to the back of what I want to do, kind of get everything lined up properly, and then cut it out and just glue it straight down. Yeah, that's kind of the way I do it.
And then do you put some kind of coat on top of it?
Yeah, I usually do, it's Liquitex satin varnish, if I can. I've also used high gloss. Some of these have high gloss on them. Yeah, there's a combination too. Just because I use acrylic, it's easier to do all that stuff, yeah.
Do you still have family in
Yes. Most of them, I guess they kind of live down there, but they also live in Miami. I have a cousin that lives in Austin, on my Nicaraguan side. I have actually my aunt and uncle on my mom's side are actually here. They live in San Antonio. They came down for the reception. Thank you. But yeah, they're still there, but they're not always there.
Yeah.
What kind of work are you working on now that you're here in Rock Party? Are you still continuing this theme? Have you kind of pivoted and working on other things?
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's always the same thing for me. It's always kind of like working these things out. I've just been kind of experimenting with new materials, specifically watercolor and gouache. I'm just kind of trying to figure that out right now. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time, but I'll figure it out at some point. Yeah.
So are you at residency here?
Yes, I'm here.
How long will you be here?
I'll be here till September 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, come hang out with him. I'm sure he's free for lunches and dinners. Show him a good Rockport time here. We've already taken him to Steerburger, Moon Dogs, Paradise Key.
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of places.
Any other questions for Quinn?
So when you have an artist in residence, I'm not from here. When you have an artist in residence, are they creating while they're here, or are they just here as a resource to talk about their paintings, or what?
It's a little bit of everything. So we've invited Quinn down for about a month. He's staying locally. Luckily, because of this building space, we have a studio space on site for him. It's downstairs. He has some regular hours, but he's here a lot more than that. But the regular hours, if you want to come talk to him or meet him or, do anything. So yeah, and he'll be here for about a month. He's already taught one workshop that was free to our members, and he'll be teaching another workshop at the high school next week. Next Friday. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. What do you think of Rockport so far?
It's been cool. Getting kind of used to it a little bit. It's taken a minute, but it's a nice town. It's kind of cool to be right on the bay, I guess it is. But yeah, it's nice to see everything going on and everything. Yeah.
Any final questions or thoughts for Quinn?
So, since you're down here and you're away from the framing place that you get some of your resource material, have you found some things here in Rockport that relate to
I haven't yet, but I haven't really been looking. Sometimes, sometimes you'll just see something. When I was in San Francisco, I would literally a lot of it was like trash, right? That was fine on the ground or something, but you don't really see that a lot here. Right? So, yeah, it's clean in here, right? Yeah.
We have sand for you.
There's sand. I could use sand. I do use sand in my work. Yeah.
Yeah. You're allowed to take sand. Do you have
That's what I was gonna ask you, think you've seen anything that will give you inspiration for a new painting?
Potentially, I really notice I kind of enjoy sunsets and sunrises and things like that. So that always is something. Potentially boats and things like that, but just also just like, I guess, way of life. My paintings are usually about, or have ways of lives in them, right? It's just like the everyday in a lot of the paintings. So that could potentially make its way into my paintings.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna hang around till about 6:30, 7 o'clock. We have a reception for Quinn. He's here. If you have questions for him, come ask him, talk to him one-on-one. And yeah, thank you so much, Quinn, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.